Hello and welcome to this generation of consoles. It's over. It's done. Take your PS5, chuck it. Take your Series X and yeet it. Take your Nintendo and, I mean, let's face it, dust it off. You just...
Wow. Okay, so there were a couple of things we're going to talk about in today's video, but then a new rumor has been spreading through the internet lately. Let's start out by talking about PS5 Pro. Now, this is something that we've covered ad nauseum at this point. The main difference between some of those and now is that it does seem like a lot of developers are now getting their hands on PS5 Pro dev kits, and the supposed specs of this PS5 Pro are starting to become a little bit more crystal clear. The bottom line is that it feels very similar to going from PS4 to PS4 Pro. Shock, awe, and surprise, they did it again. What we're looking at here, most likely, is the PS5 Pro retaining the same RDNA 8-core design of the CPU on the PS5, just adding additional clock speed. Now, there were some rumors that they might be updating something newer, but to keep compatibility, to keep it as seamless as possible for existing PS5 games, it makes a lot of sense, and that's exactly what they did with the PS4 Pro. The GPU is where it's gonna be a little bit more...
This is where we're debating.
Yeah.
So I've seen rumors that it was supposed to be RDNA 3 with features of RDNA 4, not full RDNA 4.
Just a little like sort of background on how these consoles get developed. You know, in the old days, it would be incredibly custom and everything would be completely bespoke. These days, both Microsoft and Sony go to AMD to do all this stuff. So AMD had like a toolbox, right? Of here's CPU cores, here are GPU cores, here's all the features. Now with this PS5 Pro, currently the PS5 is using RDNA 2 as its sort of architecture, which is a still very modern, still very powerful sort of setup. But for better ray tracing support and for more overall performance, it seems like they're going to be mixing and matching some other stuff. And this also will likely be taking advantage of AMD's FSR to a little bit more of a serious degree, much the same way that the PS4 Pro ran a lot of games at 1440p and really kind of pushed checkerboard rendering to kind of upscale it to 4K.
The specs that we got leaked, I think, are completely reasonable.
Very reasonable.
But I think a lot of fans are going to be really disappointed.
This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
You got a side hustle? Small business? You create content yourself? Well, you can boost your brand and engage your audience with a gorgeous, easy-to-use website.
Squarespace's all-in-one tools make it super simple to find a flexible template that fits your vision and make it do whatever you need. And you don't need any IT experience either. Squarespace's fluid engine interface lets you easily drag and drop to customize and instantly preview any design element.
Their built-in store feature makes it a breeze to sell whatever you want, your products, your content, your merch, or even your time.
We even put together a page for this is. Kinsey definitely did it all single-handedly, and Matt has claimed a lot of the credit, but he deserves none of it. It is so helpful to have Squarespace with a single tool to do everything you need. Get yourself a domain, design the website, host it. The whole thing is all in one spot.
Check out squarespace.com/thisis to get a 14-day free trial and 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
And thank you very much to Squarespace for sponsoring this episode of This Is.
The PS5 has way oversold itself from day one. They slapped 8K on the box. I see comments of just, I'll wait until the PS5 Pro where I could do like 8K 60. You're going to get a slightly more stable 4K experience. A lot of the things they're targeting was still like a higher fidelity, but still like around 30 FPS. The FPS has really stepped back this generation.
I could not disagree more. I don't know what the hell you're smoking. The amount of games on PS5 and Xbox Series X and even Series S that support 30 FPS, 60 FPS, and also if you had a budget to do like 120.
But like a lot of people want the higher fidelity because it's what they could see. They want the pretty mode.
Right, so you can just turn it on to that one. You can turn it on to performance.
And then a lot of people have been playing at like 30 FPS. What I'm arguing is that people want the pretty image, which is what they're being sold for this next generation of consoles.
Which is what you get with the PS5.
All the big selling games this year, not just PlayStation, but like Xbox, have been running at like 30, 35 FPS.
That's just not true. Almost every game these days has at least a 60 FPS mode. I would say the vast majority of PS5 and Series X games, the difference between a 30 and 60 FPS mode, like technically, the 30 FPS mode might have a little bit of extra ray tracing or something, but like usually the difference in fidelity is so minimal compared to the massive difference in response time and fluidity when it comes to running at that higher frame rate.
The reason I think people are going to be disappointed is because people have this like narrative that they've had in their head. We see this in comments that the PS5 Pro is going to solve that problem.
Okay.
And it's not going to.
So you think that people are going to load up a PS5 Pro in October of 2024?
Thinking they're going to get the super high fidelity mode running at 120 FPS.
Which you will.
You will not. You will not get that.
But why would you not?
Because most games aren't even running at 4K. It's not true 4K.
Okay.
It's 1080 upscaled. It's going to be like, it's like 1440.
Sure, but here's the difference, right? Upscale used to be a bad word. With modern techniques like DLSS, XeSS, and even FSRs getting there, you're not losing anything by letting it be upscaled. To your eyeballs, it will look almost the damn same thing. That's like you're saying like it's like a dirty word, like, oh,
No,
it's
I'm
upscaled.
not. I'm saying that at all. People think that the PS5 Pro is going to be this massive jump.
It won't.
It won't. That's all I'm trying to say. And you're just putting
You know what,
words in
Matt,
my mouth.
you're just getting a
Stop
little
putting
upset.
things in my mouth.
You're getting a little like testy here. What you should expect is better ray tracing support. You should expect 60 FPS in every damn game, Matt. So this is one of the rumors that's going around, is that the PS5 Pro is not a super aggressive change to the PS5, but again, much like we got with the PS4 to PS4 Pro, a substantial step forward. GTA 6 will look great running with full ray tracing and everything like that. That's one side of this, right? PS5 Pro seems like it's in developers' hands now. The die is being cast quite quickly, and something that is encouraging about this. So I've talked about this in the past as far as my personal opinion. The PS5 Pro is going to be expensive as hell.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like it actually might not be. The current estimate is that it will be about $100 upcharge. So you'll be looking at $500 for the PS5 and $600 for the PS5 Pro.
This is where I'm going to disagree with you.
Go ahead.
I'm going to split the difference with you on this.
Okay.
I think you're looking at this with perfect logic.
Thank you. I appreciate
from
that.
5 years ago.
But no, I take it back.
What I think it's gonna be is more of like, again, like kind of the longer term play of it'll be 650, and then with the intention of almost immediately going down to 600.
I'll compromise you on this. You know what? We can be gamers who compromise. You ready, shake hands? $600 without the disk drive, $650 with the disk drive.
Yeah. Let's talk about capitalism for a second. The board of directors says, you know what? We need to make more money. And then a new console comes out, which is a once in a, 5, 6, 7 year cycle that makes their stonks go, whoop. The stockholders don't go, you know what? That's a once in a decade thing. Next quarter, we need that stonk number to go up higher. So then they say, okay, well, we need to go up stonks more. They say, okay, well, maybe we'll lay off a third of our staff.
Oh no,
which is just what everyone else did this year.
Oh no.
And then eventually they run out of things to get rid of when it's just whoever replaced Jim Ryan and some AI machine. He's like, we still got to increase our stonks. So what's left to do? Keep increasing the price of consoles. That's your economy lesson.
I'm glad that you took so many business classes in school to know that if you have a good product, you can raise the price forever, the end profit, and there's no downside at all whatsoever. The other part of this, and I think the thing that there's a little bit more to dig into, is the Xbox side of the equation.
So, at the end of Fast and the Furious, when Brian and Dom are like, one last ride, brother.
That's most of the movies, I think.
And then they go and they split off their ways. That's what's happening here, because the generational console wars are over. I still kind of maintain that I would not be surprised if the PS5 Pro doesn't actually exist. It just says it's PS6.
The Xbox side of things, I think, is really interesting because earlier this year, there was a massive Xbox leak. Now, mind you, that leak was a little old at the time. So it was like a year or two old when it actually sort of was released to the public. It really sort of outlined the concept of a Xbox Series X Slim refresh. The idea was that next year, while Sony are plussing up to the PS5 Pro, Xbox are gonna be like, yeah, whatever, bro, you do your thing.
That rumor fueled a lot of other rumors of this is the last Xbox we're ever going to get, because they've made so much move to do cloud gaming and say we're not going to have...
Matt, don't you keep those words out your mouth, son. This new rumor is that the leaked plans that we saw, again, earlier this year that were a year or two old, are canceled, which there is a little bit of credence to that because Phil Spencer did, when that whole leak happened, said, hey, look, this is really old stuff. A lot of that's not accurate. Although, of course, if I had all my secret personal information about how my plan to take over the gaming industry was leaked, I would also say, not real. The idea here is that Microsoft may be cutting their side of the generation a little short. Instead of waiting until 2027 or 2028, which is what was in that initial sort of leaked doc, instead they may be pushing for 2026 or potentially even 2025 to launch a new generation.
A new generation.
Looks like here's the thing.
I will point out that in the video we talked about these rumors, I predicted that this generation has been the most stagnated, like...
What?
They tripped because it took half of the generation so far just to get back on their feet of people couldn't get devices.
They also sold like 50 million PS5s and stuff, and I'm sure lots
Right,
of Xbox
but they also
replacements.
sold another 50 billion PS4 Pros because people couldn't get a PS5. You know, here you have people are already calling for refreshes, and then every video we've ever done is like, I can't even get a hold of one of these consoles.
But
still.
that's not a problem at this point, right?
It kind of is.
No, you can get PS5 and Xbox quite easily.
Here, but not worldwide. My kind of thought period is, all right, let's not do a Pro for these. Let's just move on and then kind of get a clean slate.
Sure.
It'd be like an
Xbox 7. The concept here is that Microsoft would be sort of foregoing that sort of mid-cycle refresh, going for something that's more substantial. But I actually think that this could make sense because I understand from Microsoft's perspective, they want to spend 2, 3, 4 years not having the most powerful console when Sony does. No, what if they saw the PS5 Pro is coming and they go, you know what? Screw this. We're going to go for a full generation update. We're going to throw not necessarily everything out, but we're going to go with a clean slate. We're going to go with, you know, whatever the fastest CPU and GPU. We're not going to be constrained by all the stuff that Sony is trying to be a little bit more conservative with. And my reasoning for that is if you look at the Xbox One to Xbox Series sort of transition, how big of a difference was that really? Because it was clearly a hardware upgrade, but like software-wise and whatnot, almost the same. Backwards compatibility, almost the same. Like it was really going from like a low-spec to a mid-spec PC, and you didn't lose anything in that transition. And my argument here, I think that the lines between consoles have been getting blurry for a little bit, but this might just obliterate them. Because honestly, imagine this. Imagine Microsoft put together a brand new Xbox 7, whatever you want to call it. They still are, of course, running their Windows sort of core, and all the interface stuff is shared with the previous Xboxes and whatnot. All they do is throw some more hardware at it, still keeping backwards compatibility, and they just ship it. And instead of dealing with the little Pro console, they go, hey, you know what? This will still play all your Xbox One games, all your Series X games, but guess what? Now you can play at 4K 120, it would be a step above what you would be able to get from PS5 Pro, which is a more conservative update. If you're Phil Spencer, why would you not want to do that? You're going to get the limelight. You're going to probably get a year or two jump on Sony, who are going to bring out the PS6. If you can still play all the old games, what's the downside? Like, it actually makes a ton of sense.
It does. I think they're going to run into the same problem of what's available from AMD actually making the chip. The biggest upgrade I've seen for that are rumored for the new Xbox is much more of an experience type of update, which would put it more in line with the PS5. The Xbox is technically slightly more powerful than the PlayStation. But then people are like, how are you going to say it's more powerful? Look at like the haptics of PlayStation, stuff like that. That is where Xbox is severely lacking. A lot of the rumors I've seen for the new series of Xbox has been actually like focusing on haptics and motion control, basically combining Nintendo motion controls with the haptics of DualSense. My point is, I think that in a lot of customers' eyes, they could call it whatever the hell they want, and in the customer's eyes, it's still just could be a Series X Pro with whatever they could get right now.
So imagine a different design, imagine a totally different name, a different controller, like you said, that's a little more DualSense in nature, has a lot of extra stuff. Like that's a new console. That's just a straight up new console.
It is, but like it's all about like what is the perceived. You could give a console that's like 10 times faster. Whatever console you prefer, you'd still be like, this is the most powerful.
Sure.
Unless it absolutely blows the PS5 Pro out of water, which I don't think it will. I don't think it will. I don't think TSMC is gonna say we could pump these out in a meaningful way.
They can. I know my nanometers.
You also say like, oh no, because Apple's already taking up like a billion percent of their.
We're talking about 2 years maybe 3 years in the future that'll be sorted.
Right, but keep in mind, Xbox is behind the gun.
No, they're not. They just don't want to spend the money. These chips are incredibly expensive to do, and consoles are a very constrained environment. So here, one more thing that we're not discussing, which I think lends a ton of credence to this. The goddamn Xbox Series S. That is the console that Xbox is selling this generation. And I don't think it's particularly close. The leaked rumors that we've seen is that the Series S outsells the X 2-to-1, maybe a little bit more. There are certainly some complaints about the Series S when it comes to the performance and whatnot of holding the generation back. What if that's the real argument for Microsoft to push things forward? Imagine that they, for this next generation, the next version of the Series S has Series X or better performance, right? So a substantial step up over where it is from now. Imagine it's closer to like PS5 Pro in spec or whatever, right? Like something that's a big step forward. They still try to keep a very aggressive price point, probably still going to be a little bit more than $300, but that is what's working for them because ultimately Microsoft want to sell Game Pass subscriptions, Activision games. They want you on their platforms. They want you buying their stuff. That's actually, I think, my real pitch on why this makes sense, is they can't really update the Series S, which is by far their #1 sort of seller at the moment. So wouldn't it make sense for them to go for a clean sheet design, take the things they've learned from the Series S, make a Series S 2 or whatever in this new generation with all the new tech and goodies and stuff?
I think you're arguing against yourself here.
Whatever.
The reason the Series S right now is outselling the Series S is because it's come down so
But
far.
it will be in context. The next Series S will still be cheaper than everything else.
But
right?
like, it
So,
didn't
whatever.
sell at all at $300. It didn't start selling till it was gotten to the 220 area. I think you're misinterpreting why it's selling.
It's a good console. It's cheaper than everything else. Like, that's all there is to it.
It's not cheaper. It's massively cheaper.
Yeah, and they would need to still keep that kind of price delta.
But like, if that's the case, why can't they make the Series X $150 cheaper right now?
Because it's a different console, right? Like,
But that's my
cooling.
But you're saying like, oh, it's basically the new one will be a Series X along those lines.
No, in performance. No, so
Right,
if
but
they
like,
just take the more up-to-date CPU and GPU and architecture stuff,
Yeah.
shrink it down to little baby mode, they can still sell it for a somewhat reasonable price. Probably a little more than $300, but like still that kind of more aggressive price point.
But that's
to get
still
you in
a
the
lot
door.
of money for most people. And again, it doesn't like. I think the only factor here has nothing to do with specs, price, anything. You asked me if I watch Digital Foundry. I think you watch too much Digital Foundry because the average consumer does not give a shit about nanometers. They don't give a shit about the GPU in there. They say, is this a box I can play my favorite games on and have it look pretty and run nice? Of course, everyone wants the best one, but you know what they want? They want the one they can afford.
Yeah, which is why they sell the Series S and the X, and that's why they're going to do that again next generation.
If you look at the sales for the Series S, it didn't start selling when it came out. They started buying it when it was $200. That's what the price people are willing to pay for consoles. Now, it's a different story for PlayStation 5. It's a different culture. But when they think of Xbox, they think $200 is a console price. Let us know what you think in the comments.
Boy, oh boy, I can't wait to read all of your comments about our very
I just want to
colorful
point
argument.
out, if this rumor is correct, I predicted it already.
I just want to point out that a broken clock is correct twice a day.
Well, if it stopped, it is.
A broken clock? Oh, you mean like a fast clock or slow clock?
A fast clock is not.
Well, Xbox living on that fast time.
Yeah.
Yeah, hurry up. New Xbox time. Let's go. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe, like, comment, and until next time, Sony ponies roll out.
Nay.
Oh, good Lord.